Hello guys and welcome back. So now we're going to continue looking at creating some more effects, and I wanted to revisit and show you the first example that we created from the statue emitting, and this is exactly the same result or similar result to what you've done. It's just the rendering here that is a little bit more advanced, and we're going to look into that, but the motion and everything is everything we've covered that. And you can see here the radial shapes that's coming from the amount of how much radial is happening per curve. So the more swirly motion you have, the more radial force you have, the more it's going to swirl. And the next example we're going to look at is I'm going to show you guys how to create the trail, this trail here, and then we're going to learn how to create an impact. It's not, I need to catch it. So that this impact, we're not going to replicate this 100%, but I'm going to try and maybe make something better, hopefully, or it may not, it may look completely different, but I'm going to show you the technique, and then we'll tweak it a little bit and go from there. After that, I'm going to talk about the radial, and yeah, and then we'll continue exploring some more stuff. Cool, so let's start. I want to create that trail, so I'm going to start with an object, a sphere in this case. I'm gonna set it to polygon, add some geo to it, and I'm gonna move it all the way up. Let's reduce it a bit, and we're going to move it up, and let's set a keyframe here because I'm planning to animate this guy. So I'm going to set a keyframe in the translation and rotation, and let's go to the first frame and move it up and shift it here. Let's set a keyframe. Now we have the object coming through, and I'm gonna let's give it something like that, and let's add a keyframe in between, and I'm gonna move the path a bit so it doesn't go straight. Maybe let's move this here. Let's move it back. And I can trail this object. If I go to frame 37, I can trail it back to see exactly the path. So let's increase this, and that's the path, which is fine for now. So I want to create an emission from this, and then when it hits the ground, I want the impact to start. So let's scale this down a bit. Maybe something like that, and let's add some noise to it. I'm going to use a Mamplin node, and this simply applies a noise to the node, to the geometry. Something like that. And let's take a look here. And you can see the movement, there is no animation onto the geometry because this is done at this level. So I'm going to change the offset to say $F, and as I play through, it's going to change the shape quite a bit. So let's reduce this by 10 so the change doesn't happen so fast. Let's hit play. It's still too fast. Try 100. Yeah, something like that. So I just want some difference in the shape as it progresses. This is, again, where when it comes to creating effects, there's always the phase where we set things up, the technical part, create the workflow, make sure everything works, and then there's a huge part where we spend a lot of time tweaking. And my focus here is not the tweaking. I'm gonna try and explain everything, but the tweak takes a lot of time, and once my goal is to teach you how to do the technical part and get you started with the tweaking phase, and then you guys will do hopefully the rest. So now we have the sphere moving and animating at the same time. Okay, let's create a camera that can view everything. I'm going to change the background color to light. And right now the clipping plane of the geometry of the camera are not set correctly. So I'm going to lower this to, select the camera, lower this to 0.01, and I'm going to increase this to 50,000. Make sure that we cover everything. And let's see where the object is. Okay, we can look at this. Okay, cool. Let's make this bigger. And that's our trail. Okay, let's compute the velocity. Obviously, it's very important to do that. And I'm going to scatter points on this. After we compute the velocity, let's leave it at 1000 now. Let's create a pop network. Let's dive inside. I'm going to select this to all points. And let's hit play. Cool. So now we're getting a trail. As you can see, it's stepping, so we need to change the settings to get the birth emission so we get the proper trail. Let's try this. Cool. So forward worked in this case with match topology, so we'll leave it at that. And then I want to apply some forces, obviously. And let's first lower the lifespan and give it some variance. So not all the points dies after 24 frames. Some will die at 0.75 and some will die at 125. I think it's too long, so let's reduce this. Let's reduce it a bit more, 0.25 and 0.1, and let's add some noise. So pop force, set this to 10. Cool. I'm gonna make it longer. I want to try something else. I want to add another idea to the effects. Cool. So right now I like the shape, I like the silhouette and everything, and what I want to do is I want to only affect, you see here this part is very smooth. That's because it doesn't get picked up by the noise. It gets birthed quickly and then it takes time for it to be affected by the noise. So what we can do is inside this pop source there's just born a group here. I'm gonna give it a name, call it just born, and I'm gonna create another pop force. And this time I want to only affect the just born points. I'm going to increase the amplitude because 10 takes a few frames for it to affect, and then if we only affect the just born, we could break that the beginning tip. Let's set this to 10, maybe 0.5. Yeah, that should do. Set this to 25. Cool. It's still not perfect, but I think for now it's fine to have the long trail. I mean, it's realistic. It's just that we want to break that a little bit more. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to add some gravity to this, and the gravity node in DOPS, especially with POPs, is actually single threaded and slows down the sim. And the best way to create gravity is using a pop force as well, because these guys are multi-threaded. Leave the amplitude to 0. We don't want any noise. We just want to apply a -9.8, which is equal to the gravity. and this should cause the particles to fall as they come down. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the particle as they get here, I want them to die. I don't want them to fall down or anything. So I'm going to create a pop kill node. I'm going to turn on bounding box, and let's scale this up a bit, and let's move it down. Something like that. Let's hit play. And the idea is once this hits the ground, it's gonna the hit is gonna start. Now, one thing I don't like with this is the animation of the trail itself. See how it's slowing down as it gets there, and that's because the object, the animation that we did with the sphere, is behaving like that. So what we need to do is we need to work on the curve for this. And what I'm going to do is I just need we don't need any rotation in this case, so I'm going to delete that. And the Z, we don't have any animation on the Z axis, so let's delete that. And I'm going to work on the curves of these guys a bit. And I'm going to change the last frame to be linear. I want them to go straight into that state. And let's fix this a bit. I want it to be linear and get there as soon as possible, basically. It can start off slow here. Same with this. Let's see what happened. Okay, let's take a look at this image better to see it there. Let's hit play. Cool. We can still speed it up, obviously. And this is, again, this is the part where the tweaks comes in. So let's add a pop color. Pop color node ramp. And I'm gonna set it to be bright yellow, and then sorry, this is this is the first color. I'm gonna make this a dark orange, and let's see how that looks. Now we need to inverse that, so it's just gonna move these guys around. And let's add another color here to be white. Cool. And the idea is once this hits, we're gonna have another impact going from the center. Maybe it could be a sand or anything like that, but it's a hit from the meteor that will cause a lot of particles to get shot out, and will create some cool effects there. So this is the idea for the meteor, or the trail of the meteor. And let's take a look at it from the camera. We don't have to see the full trail. So if we look through the camera and click this lock here, we can move while the camera is moving as well. Cool, I like it. So keep this, and we'll add some more stuff to it in the next video. Thank you guys for watching, and see you in a bit.